Okay, this is me before my very first double feature for this channel. I don't know what this channel is going to be, really. I'm sitting here in my parking garage. I have already looked up, ride home reviews and drive home reviews. Those are two things that technically already exist, even though I think one of those hasn't been touched in like 5 or 6 years. Still, I'll leave that to that person. This is my ride home review for my channel, which is going to have a different name than Ride Home Reviews. Anyway, basically 2 things happened to me in the past 2 months, and that is that I got fired from my job and my dad died. And that basically means that I just have a little bit of runway and a whole lot of time. And my fiance was lovely enough. She knows how much I enjoy movies, so she was lovely enough to get me the AMC A-list pass that gets me up to 4 movies a week. We are using the out of that, boy. Maybe I shouldn't say the F word in the first minute of a YouTube video, but we are going to use that. So we're going to try and see 4 movies a week, every week. I'm going to try, no matter how much I think I won't like the movie, no matter how much I end up disliking the movie. I'm going to try and see 4 movies a week. The place that I go to see my movies at has a parking garage that is validation for under 2 hours, or validation $0 for under 2 hours. 2 to 6 hours is $5, and then anything over 6 hours, I gotta pay $20. So, in order to cut down on spending on parking, I'm going to be seeing 2 movies per visit as many times as I can, basically so that I can see 2 movies and only park for $5 rather than parking for $5 every single time I come to see a movie. We're going to try it. It was 11:33 when I got my ticket, which means I have until 5:33 to get my ticket validated and get out of this parking lot. We are going to see 2 movies. One I'm very excited about, one less so. One premieres today, so this is like the world, or at least the U.S. premiere of Hail Mary. I'm very excited to go see this movie. I'm actually running a little late, and then after that, I'm going to go see Reminders of Him. I will let you guys know my thoughts on the way back. We're going to find out how I feel about this. Hopefully I enjoy them. Hopefully I make it in time, but I'm going to go do that, and I will see you soon.
6 hours later.
All right, let's do this. We are, back again. Let's see. I do have to drive, so do pardon me while I make sure that my attention is focused on driving. But, ayo, back again. We've just seen, let's see, Spaceman movie Hail Mary in IMAX. That was cool. Plus, Reminders of Him in not IMAX. That was fine as well. It was, I will have a lot to say about both of these movies. We're going to start with Spaceman movie just simply because it was the one that I saw first, and I enjoyed it more. And because we're trying this kind of new format idea out, we're gonna see how the sound comes out with basically while I talk about Hail Mary, the Project Hail Mary. Sorry, it's not called Hail Mary, it's called Project Hail Mary. So we're gonna see how the audio turns out while I talk about that movie, because I enjoyed it, and generally movies that movie reviews that are more critical are very popular. They go viral. They're more likely to, get views, especially if I have, a clickbait title on there or whatever. But Project Hail Mary, first I'll just start with my thoughts and kind of give a light spoiler-free review about the story. But first thing that I want to say is that I really enjoyed myself. I thought that they did a great job with the IMAX. I thought that the sci-fi stuff in general, it was based on a book that was written by the same man who wrote the book The Martian. So The Martian being a very well-made, competent, again, science fiction story that utilizes real-life science, because obviously the writer is a very smart theoretical physics kind of guy, theoretical space guy. Either way, that's super unimportant, but I just wanted to say that I really enjoyed the movie, that this is definitely a go see it in the theaters. I think that this is great for the whole family. It wasn't particularly like scary. It wasn't particularly, it wasn't anything that I think a whole family wouldn't enjoy. And so for that reason, I think that you should just go ahead, if you're looking for a good, fun, action-packed sci-fi film for the family, that is your best choice for this weekend. Now, I'll go into light spoilers or not light spoilers, but, I'll call it light spoilers, and here's why. Basically, this is, of course, like I said, this is based on a book, and the people who have read the book say that you should try to go into this movie knowing as little as possible, that knowing more kind of takes away from the experience, takes away from the surprises that come along the way. And I would agree, only simply because I did want to know as little as possible about the movie. Once I heard that information, that somebody said, oh, all my friends who have read the book say go in knowing nothing, like it's more fun that way. And certainly, if you go into a book, you probably don't know half the stuff that they're going to show you in the trailer. But unfortunately, there was a trailer that kind of spoiled some things for me, and I'm going to spoil those things for you here. And one of those things is basically the concept of the story. The premise of this story is that our main character, Ryan Gosling, gets sent into space on a suicide mission because there is a little disease. It's like there are these little living beings that are consuming the sun. They are consuming the sun, and so we have to figure out, we have to send our Ryan Gosling character out into space so that he can figure out, basically there's another sun where, like, the scientists have realized that this disease is eating all the suns in, like, the nearest, like, nearby in the galaxy. I think it's still within the Milky Way galaxy. But the disease is eating all the suns. But there's one sun that is being consumed, but it's not shrinking. And so they are going to go to that sun to figure out what is eating, why their sun isn't shrinking despite also being eaten by this disease. And so that's kind of where we land with this premise, is we end up with Ryan Gosling. He ends up alone because, surprise, surprise, long-term space travel is very dangerous, and sometimes your cosmonauts and your astronauts end up dying in cryo sleep or whatever. Like, they usually don't really address cryo sleep, like how accidents happen. It's a very sci-fi, just believe us that they died. But what's fun about this premise is that Ryan Gosling wakes up and he doesn't know why he's on the ship. He doesn't remember volunteering for this mission. He doesn't remember anything, really. He's having to piece together what his life was before he woke up on this ship. We all wake up with him. And one of the brilliant things that I found about this movie is the choice to, actually, I'm going the wrong way, was the choice to frame the present day in IMAX and frame flashbacks in widescreen. That I thought was brilliant, gave the audience a great way to, like, keep up with the movie and understand what's going on, where we are in time, relative. I thought that was a fantastic choice. Let me see, what else okay, so the trailer that spoiled a little bit more of the movie for me, which technically, for the record, him not knowing where he was and how he ended up on this mission was not spoiled for me. That was something that I found out with everybody else kind of at the beginning of this movie. The thing that gets spoiled is that he gets out there, Ryan Gosling, he gets to this place. Oh yeah, I'm not going to take that. He gets to the Milky Way, or like the galaxy, not the galaxy, the solar system where this sun is, that is, again, being consumed, but it's not shrinking. So he goes to this solar system to, either way, he's there. he arrives, and there's another ship there. There's an alien ship there that keeps pulling up next to him. It's a very funny sequence of Ryan, who is not, mind you, he's not an astronaut pilot. He does not know how to pilot the spaceship that he is in, that he has just woken up in. And he just keeps piloting it away from this alien spaceship. The alien spaceship just keeps pulling up right next to him. And he basically discovers that on this ship, there are these little rock people aliens, or at least there is a rock person alien, that is experiencing the same thing, that he's at that same solar system for the same reason of trying to experiment and figure out why this little sun virus is able to eat this sun at this solar system without it shrinking. And that's kind of where our premise is that, Ryan Gosling, lone spaceman, this little rock alien is also a lone spaceman, and now they're together, and they break the language barrier, and they figure out how to talk to communicate with each other, and they're gonna now figure out how they can save each of their stars, not just that's the thing, not just their planets. They're saving the universe. They have to save their entire universes, because if their suns die, then so does everything else, right? And it really is just the most beautiful story of friendship. This spaceman who clearly has hardened his heart, and he's a loner type of guy, but he ends up befriending this little rock, and this little rock befriends him back, and they care for each other in ways that I don't think we're used to seeing in an alien movie. And we're talking about a first contact, but it's friendship and it's love. And it's actually funny, this would be a great double feature with the movie Elio, which is also about aliens and friendship. I think that those are a great pair together, they're a version of First Contact, and at the end of the day, it's about friendship. And I just really enjoyed the movie. I wasn't sure what to expect, obviously. Again, knowing that it was written by the same guy who wrote The Martian, I was definitely expecting some great, heavy-duty, good, well-written science fiction that is definitely, has fictional elements to it, but also has that strong science writing, which is always very fun. Should I get into spoilers here? Should I talk spoilers right now? That's the thing. Based after what I've already told you, there aren't very many spoilers that I can talk about, aside from how he ends up on the mission, aside from what his memories end up being, what he ends up remembering. Very interesting. My guy Lionel Boyce was in the movie. Now Lionel, you probably know him as Marcus from The Bear. He's a part of the Odd Future rap collective. That has a whole Odd Future Wolfgang, yada yada yada. It's 1.5 billion letters. He's a part of them originally, artist named L-Boy. I genuinely just think he's just friends with Tyler, the Creator. But he probably also is cold in his own right. I don't actually know that information. But I got to work with him. On a show. It's secret base. So I'm not sure about how much I'm allowed to say, but I've worked with him. I know he's really cool. And he gets to kind of flex his comedic chops a little bit in this movie. He makes a great character. The character that he plays is basically a government security guy. He's a high clearance security man. And of course, Ryan Gosling has just a great personality, has got a lot of charisma. And so his chemistry with Lionel, his chemistry with all his scene partners, even literally his scene partner for most of the movie is a rock. I cannot understate enough how Ryan Gosling's scene partner for the majority of this movie is literally a rock. And yet you feel so much love, you feel so much warmth, you feel just so incredibly endeared to this character who is he was a scientist, he was a doctor of physics, I think, or astrophysics, or maybe biology. gee, I don't remember exactly what they said in the movie, but what you do know is that he basically was trying to push the boundaries in his field, in his scientific field, and he had a hypothesis, a theorem, that people laughed at in his field. So he felt pushed out of that science, and he became a science teacher. And the disease that's eating the sun is like highly politicized. They are able to like very quickly and easily communicate to the audience that this issue is being politicized, that there are people who are claiming that it's not happening, that there are people who are like, oh, this is a, evangelical sign from God about the end times, yada, yada, yada. And genuinely, like, early on in the movie, a child raises her hand in his class and just asks, like, are the space dots really eating the sun? And his answer is, you should ask your parents about that. Because he knows that as a public school teacher, this kind of quote-unquote controversial, may or may not be happening science, environmental effects science, that again, not that they need to, not that this is like, oh, people should be panicking, people should be yada, yada, yada. Just that there is an attempt basically to keep people from doing that by essentially lying to them about the fact that it's even happening. Yeah, that's really good. That's fantastic writing. That's excellent. Like I said, it was very quickly kind of addressed, and you didn't have to show us a newsreel. You didn't have to show us like fake Nancy Grace or whatever on a tirade about how all of this is lies and all this stuff. And like, in that same regard, like, to that point, I don't want to say it doesn't date the movie. I'm trying to think of how to explain it, explain like what it does. It kind of makes it into a classic just by not doing that, because when you watch sci-fi movies, especially the early 2000s, loved this. The early 2000s could not get enough of showing the TV in a movie. They would cut to the TV, and they've pre-recorded. Sometimes it's kind of fun to like just to figure out what it's gonna be when they do show newscasters on television, of whether or not we're doing a fake news channel with fake news people who look really serious, who look like they're actually doing what they're saying they're doing, or if they're gonna just bring in like fucking Wolf Blitzer or Nancy Grace or somebody. Because they didn't have a real Nancy Grace in Gone Girl. But they have like a fake Nancy Grace, and it's very apparent that that's who this is supposed to be. And of course, with Gone Girl, like, that's part of the story, is the television. But I digress. It's complete irrelevant to this review. But it reminded me of the movie Arrival, which of course is also an alien movie, First Contact, and we're talking about low key, like, not necessarily saving the world, but kind of like the way that Arrival ends is it's like, I don't want to say it's circular, because it's not, but the doomsday clock, the ticking clock in Arrival is sort of different, obviously, from what our clock is in this movie, but it utilizes like the idea of government clearance and secrecy and all of these things. They use them very similarly, and we get this kind of, because our main character is an insider in this world, or at least has been brought into this world specifically because of their expertise in the field. We now don't need to know what the rest of the world thinks. We don't need to be outside with the news. We don't need to see kind of how the news is talking about this issue and yada, 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 because we are in with this character who knows the real truth, what's actually going on 100% of the time, or most of the time, and whatever is going on, it is kind of for us to find out with that character dramatically. Like, that's the whole point. And I think that that's beautiful. Now, of course, like, getting deeper and deeper into spoilers, the relationship that he builds with Rocky is so beautiful. Let's see, what do I have here? I just have great humor in general. Let's see, yeah, eulogizing pilots you can't remember. There's a scene, obviously, again, because Ryan Gosling is not a pilot. He's a science teacher. He's a doctor of science who ended up on this suicide mission, not necessarily by accident, but he doesn't remember volunteering, and that's important. He's with this crew that he can't remember. He's trying to access his memories, and he sees, he has to bury his comrades at space. He has to bury his colleagues at space. And he is looking at their photos, and he's looking at looking through their personal effects, and has to eulogize them based on just that information, just on the personal effects that he has for them. And something about that was just so beautiful. And maybe it is just because my dad passed away recently, and there were a lot of people at his funeral who I felt like, who I didn't necessarily know, or people who genuinely, were there for us as his family, but didn't necessarily know my dad as a person. And it was just sort of a profound emotion, I think, that it brought upon me in this particular time in my life. And sort of with that being said, like the relationship that he is able to form with Rocky throughout the course of the movie, it's like, I like it because you're able to, despite the fact that this character is an alien, new to the human world, new to all of this, like, part of it is that the aliens, like, they have complex understandings of different chemical makeups, like xenon, for instance. On Earth, xenon is a gas, but these rock aliens, Iridians, are able to they're able to like take xenon gas and make it into a physical form, make it into a solid, and so they use all of their solids are made out of xenon, but to that instance, they then also don't know about radiation because they can't perceive it. And so there are all these different factors of like there's areas in which they are more technologically advanced than humanity. And there are areas where it's like, oh, you guys don't know about this. Like, well, it's radiation sickness. Like, it was cancer or whatever. Even though it's like a rock can get cancer. Yes. Or like it can be irradiated. But that's the sort of thing that you don't necessarily think about until it's in this situation. You're in this sort of fun, imaginative space. It's like really cool, just a great play space. It was fun to see how this particular writer imagines other life forms outside of on planet Earth, and how deeply human other life forms can be. Y'all are doing this, and now we're all fucking stuck. Sorry, my apologies. I don't like being in traffic. We're all, well, like people just in the way. But yeah, I think that might be all I have to say. No, it's still recording. Oh yeah, we're at 20 minutes. That might be all I have to say. I'll probably end up having to like chop this up a little bit and make it different. But yeah, it's like, I don't know. Let me see if there's anything else on my notes that I wanted to say. Grace and Rocky save the stars. That's really, like, Grace and Rocky will save the stars. Grace and Rocky save the stars. Like, it was just so deeply, like, profound and meaningful to me. There's not necessarily even much more to say than that, other than just, like, life is beautiful, movies are beautiful, and taking care of each other and caring for one another through our differences is what life is all about. Like, life is the reason. That's another two things that I will take away from this movie. Grace and Rocky save the stars, and life is the reason. And even if you don't have strong bonds with the people here, you never know where you can make that connection, and you never know how deep that connection might go once you've made it. That's all. That's beautiful. We're going to cut here, and then I'll be back to talk about Reminders of You. Because that one, it's like, I don't even want to say it sucked, but we'll get back to that. Hey, okay, coming at you from the editing bay, I just realized that I probably should do like a closer, like a bumper, like a call to action thing where I ask everybody to like and subscribe and thank you for watching. So yeah, like, subscribe, thank you for watching. See you in the next one. If you're watching this when I upload this, you'll get the next one hours later. See you soon.